wait for the ice to melt. They just kept on laying track. When summer came, they had to tear up thousands of miles of track and rebuild it before they could open the line. And to get more money, the two railroad companies built the longest routes with under-quality material. You can just imagine what the future operating costs this transcontinental railroad would endure. Indeed, when the Union Pacific was complete, from day one, it could not make a profit because its operating expenses were too high. First of all, thousands of miles of shoddily built, under-quality track had to be constantly replaced. Second, because they took the extra long route and it wasn't built over the lowest grade hills, they had to pay a lot more money in fuel costs, wage costs, and it took a lot more time to haul freight across the country. The operating expenses were so high from day one, the Union Pacific was never able to make a profit. Therefore, the government had to continue to subsidize Transcontinental Line once it was built. Union Pacific had to continue to receive more and more government money, or it would have gone out of business and stopped running. Indeed, Congress had just spent a fortune financing the building of the Transcontinental Line. Now Congress could not let their prized Transcontinental Line declare bankruptcy and close down, so the government continued financing it. After the Union Pacific was built, other political entrepreneurs got together with glory-seeking politicians in their areas of the country and said, the federal government financed the Union Pacific. Therefore, they have to finance a transcontinental railroad in our region. So Congress went ahead and financed the building of a transcontinental up north called the Northern Pacific and one down south called the Santa Fe. Of course, both of those had the same results. They built extra long, circuitous routes. They turned into an orgy of fraud, substandard quality material used, inflated prices paid, no planning, no surveying, no time taken to select the lowest grade hills. So right from day one, the other two transcontinentals lost money, and they had to receive government subsidies just to continue operating.
With that, I'm going to say hold tight, take a deep breath. Loren, you really got us at the edge of our seats. This is phenomenal to hear this, and we want to hear more. But I think we'll take a small commercial break, and we will be back. And at the same time, you too, Loren, this is very fascinating, interesting, and I wonder how many of our public listeners tonight have heard this phenomenal story. So everybody, we will be right back. You are listening to NTR Neothink Radio. This is Steve Fagan.
NTR Neothink Radio Network. Visit neothinkradio.com.
How can you achieve optimum health and vitality? There's now a paradigm shift in healthcare where you can absolutely take control of your health and wellness. Learn about the 3 pillars of optimum health. This amazing company offers solutions that are based on preventive action and self-care before disease strikes. It is a company like no other that has the dedication, resources, and vision working closely with Epigenics. That's right, Epigenics. Did you know that certain food compounds can influence the way our DNA operates? Did you hear this? This is huge. Let me repeat that. Did you know that certain food compounds can influence the way our DNA operates? To learn much more than what I'm saying with you in this commercial, visit myultimatehomesuccess.com. Again, that's myultimatehomesuccess.com. myultimatehomesuccess.com. Wow.
NTR Neothink Radio Network.
Well, welcome back, everybody. And as you're hearing Loren Taylor, who is an officer of the 12 Visions Party National Committee. And what we've done tonight is we're giving you a very true, realistic story of a true entrepreneur. And what happened when he was working with his own process and then how he was when he was working with the government. Loren, you're really opening our eyes to some valuable information. And it is crucial that we hear the story. I don't know about you, but I remember when I was a child, I used to like to stay by the radio and listen to some really good drama and some really, kick-action type of adventures, and I couldn't wait to hear the next step. And you're doing that tonight with us by talking about the James J. Hill story. I could hear our listeners probably at the edge of their seat. Okay, what happened? Because many of them probably are really not aware of the story. And we're making you aware of this exactly what happened to an entrepreneur. And I know I'm on the edge of my seat because what I'm hearing here is about greed. I'm hearing here how money is just being really thrown away, how there is safety issues, how floor-filled man is thinking of themselves instead of us, humanity. And we want to hear more. So, Loren, please proceed.
Thanks, Steve. I just got to the part where we finally get to James J. Hill. In the meantime, there was a young man way up north, James J. Hill, going about making a living. He was born in a log cabin in Ontario, Canada, to a working-class family. His father died when he was a boy, so Hill got a job to support his mother. At 17, he moved to St. Paul and got a job for a shipping company. He started in an entry-level position, but he loved the transportation business. He really applied himself. He began making contacts, and he began moving up. Before long, he began making partnerships in local railroads that were being built in his area. With a sweeping vision, yet always focused on nitty-gritty details, Hill commanded success. Eventually, Hill decided that he was going to build the first privately financed transcontinental railroad way up along the U.S. and Canadian border, which at that time was all wilderness with no settlers. Well, from the beginning, the idea was labeled Hill's Folly, and you can see why. How could someone build a railroad that could possibly compete when he had to pay all the building costs himself? And there were 3 other transcontinental railroads farther south that had all their building costs paid by the government. Moreover, Hill's Railroad was going to be way up north where no one lived. Those other 3 government-financed railroads were located in the main population areas of the United States. In addition, once Hill did complete his railroad, how could he compete with the other 3 railroads when they continued to receive government subsidies, and Hill had to pay his expenses through his own bottom-line profits? And the 3 other lines proved that no profits existed. Well, Hill went ahead with his plan anyway. He had to obey the disciplines of a bottom line. He could not go rushing into the wilderness to collect government subsidies. He had to build his line out west, one extension at a time. He would build westward into the wilderness a few hundred miles at a time. Then he would send agents back east to advertise to farmers in the east. Hill offered to move people for free into his western wilderness so they could settle and start their farms. Then Hill would give them free rates to ship their crops back to the markets in the east for a couple of years until they got established. He gave a lot of ordinary low-income people exciting new leases on life and made their dreams come true. This worked. For each extension west, he brought in enthusiastic, hard-working farmers. They'd flourish. He'd build up business on his track, and after a while, his extension west made money. From those profits, he'd finance another extension west, a few hundred miles at a time. He never stopped. By turning low-income settlers into land-owning entrepreneurs, among others, he settled the entire northern border of the United States with his railroad. And lo and behold, in 1890, the first American transcontinental railroad was built without one penny of government money. He reached the Pacific Ocean, and he did it by offering people, some of whom had little chance at much in life, an opportunity of a lifetime to own land and become entrepreneurs. What an accomplishment. But most amazingly, one man did it, not the entire might of the U.S. government, one lone man. One genius of society was raising the prosperity of an entire nation. But now that he had accomplished this amazing feat, could he make it work? Here Hill was with his transcontinental way up north when the population base was farther south. He was competing against 3 continentals farther south that had their expenses paid for by the government. So what would happen to Hill's transcontinental? During the building of Hill's Railroad, since it was his personal money that was being spent, he personally dug into the tough, nitty-gritty details. With unyielding disciplines and efforts, he put controls on everything. He personally surveyed the routes. He made sure the shortest, most direct routes were built. When the track had to go over hills, he would spend time with the engineers and make sure they picked out the lowest grade